What is the proper relationship, what should be the proper relationship between a chairman of the Fed and a president of the United States?
Well, first of all, the Federal Reserve is an independent agency, and that means basically that there is no other agency of government which can overrule actions that we take.
The Jew Harold Grellis Rosenthal explained, "Our power has been created through the manipulation of the national monetary system. The Federal Reserve System fitted our plan nicely since it is owned by us, but the name implies that it's a government institution. From the very outset, our purpose was to confiscate all the gold and silver, replacing them with worthless, non-redeemable paper notes. We, Jews, have put issue upon issue to the American people. Then we promote both sides of the issue as Confucian remnants. With their eyes fixed on the issue, they fail to see who is behind every scene. We Jews glory in the fact that the stupid Goy have never realized that we are the parasites consuming an increasing portion of production, while the producers are continually receiving less and less. We have to understand that one of the most powerful tools the globalists have for profit and control is war. The most lucrative thing that can happen for the international bankers and the globalists is war, for it forces the country to borrow even more money from the Federal Reserve Bank at interest. Wall Street had successfully been occupied. The next goal for the elite was to finish off Christian Russia and from there launch an invasion of the rest of Europe. According to the State Department's documents, a group of Jews including Jacob Schiff, Felix Warburg, Otto Kahn, Mortimer Schiff, Isaac Seligman already planned the overthrow of the Russian Tsar in 1916. They decided that Russia should be destroyed and a communist slave regime would be implemented. The fact that we will never learn in school is that communism actually was a Jewish totalitarian ideology invented by Jews, funded by Jewish bankers, and economically manifested by Jewish Bolsheviks as Vladimir Lenin, Trotsky, Kaganovich. Dogs were slaughtered. News of the brutal murder of the Romanovs would send shockwaves throughout Russia and all of Europe. To some Jews, though, the slaughter of the Romanov family was treasured as a Jewish ritual murder. In selected Jewish-owned shops, they sold greeting cards with images that were unavailable for Gentiles. The postcards carry the image of the Tzaddik. This is an image of a rabbinical Jew with the Torah in his hand and a white foal in the other. The head of the depicted foal is clearly shown to be the Imperial Russian Tsar Nicholas II. Below this image is the inscription in Hebrew: "This is a sacrificial animal, so is my cleansing. It will be my replacement in cleansing the victim." A bloody civil war between the Red Jews, led by Trotsky, and the White Christians, led by Admiral Kolchak, broke out before the Jews could grab full power of the Soviet powerhouse to set up their own Bolshevik totalitarian system. David R. Francis, U.S. ambassador to Russia, said in January 1918, "The Bolshevik leaders here in Russia, most of whom are Jews and 90% of whom are returned exiles, care little for Russia or any other country, but are internationalists, and they're trying to start a worldwide social revolution." The Jewish role in the Communist Revolution was mentioned in many major Jewish publications, such as the Jewish Encyclopedia and the Universal Jewish Encyclopedia and the Encyclopaedia Judaica. In fact, they are boasting about the essential role of the Jews in the Russian Revolution. The Jewish Chronicle said, "There is much in the fact of Bolshevism itself, in the fact that so many Jews are Bolshevists, in the fact that the ideals of Bolshevism at many points are consonant with the finest ideals of Judaism." Of the 22 ministers in the first Soviet government, 17 were Jews. The few who were not themselves Jewish often were Freemasons, had Jewish wives, and spoke Yiddish. We can't know for sure if Stalin was Jewish, but at least he spoke Yiddish and had 3 Jewish wives. Some historians claim that Stalin was Georgian, and some say that he was a Georgian Jew. Los Angeles B'nai B'rith Messenger, for example, stated that Stalin was a Jew. Stalin's real name was Losif Vissarionovich Zhugashvili. The Jewish writer Moritz Steinschneider invented the term anti-Semitic in 1860. The term would be used to silence all those that dared to expose Jewish crimes. Because of the predominantly Jewish character of the regime, the very first piece of legislation approved by the communist regime was the Anti-Semitism Act in 1917. Anti-Semitism was made a capital crime. An anti-communist was regarded as an anti-Semite. Leon Trotsky also started using the word racist to browbeat all dissenters of the communist ideology and to render debate impossible. These words are used still to this day to bully any politically incorrect person into silence. Even more now than ever, they're trying to make it punishable to question or criticize their actions by calling it hate speech, fake news, or anti-Semitic.
Anti-Semitism is used as a great blockade. When somebody's called an anti-Semite, it's usually because they've asked some question or made some comment about Jewish behavior in some way, shape, or form. And because Jews don't want to discuss that behavior, they call you an anti-Semite for daring to question that Jews do anything bad ever. That's really why it is used. Anytime you say something about Jews, Zionists, Israel, anything with a tangent to Jews that is in a negative light, you're going to be called an anti-Semite by the Jews, because this is the defense mechanism that they use to cover up their crimes and to prevent analysis of the criminal action that has happened, which so very often leads to a Jewish perpetrator. The Jewish philosophy is, how did Franz Seiler describe it the other day? It is an excuse to commit crimes. That's all it is. You put all your morals aside and you can do anything. That's the Jewish philosophy. And of course the other part of it, for the people who actually are Jewish and following the dictates of the Talmud, believe that they are better than everybody else, and they act accordingly. And we see the horror in the world that is generated by that insanity.
You must understand, the leading Bolsheviks who took over Russia were not Russians. They hated Russians. They hated Christians. Driven by ethnic hatred, they tortured and slaughtered millions of Russians without a shred of human remorse. The October Revolution was not what you call in America the Russian Revolution. It was an invasion and conquest over the Russian people. More of my countrymen suffered horrific crimes at the blood-stained hands than any people or nation ever suffered in the entirety of human history. It cannot be understated. Bolshevism was the greatest human slaughter of all time. The fact that most of the world is ignorant of this reality is proof that the global media itself is in the hands of the perpetrators. We cannot state that all Jews are Bolsheviks, but without Jews, there would be no Bolshevism. For a Jew, nothing is more insulting than the truth. The blood-matted Jewish terrorists murdered 66 million in Russia from 1918 to 1957. Alexander Solzhenitsyn, Nobel Prize-winning novelist, historian, and victim of Jewish Bolshevism.